Welcome back, Focus Learners. Okay, let's dive into this. Today, we're unpacking an explainer on Robert Greene's incredibly controversial and wildly popular book, The 48 Laws of Power. You know, since it hit the shelves back in 1998, it has stirred up a massive debate. We're talking serious controversy here. Is it just a manual for dark psychology, or is it an absolutely essential guide to surviving a pretty ruthless world? Well, let's find out.
To really get this book, we have to understand where the author was actually coming from. Robert Greene's direct response to all his critics is honestly pretty simple. I'm not evil, I'm a realist. Now, while figures like former American Apparel CEO Dov Charney literally called this thing the Bible for atheists, Greene himself tells a totally different story. He originally wrote this out of pure frustration. During his time as a Hollywood screenwriter, he bumped into some highly manipulative executives, so he felt like a kid pulling back the curtain to expose the dirty tricks and mind games those in power were playing. He just wanted to demystify the whole shebang for the rest of us.
Section 1. The Psychopath's Bible. Now, this book has definitely been called a psychopath's manual, but we're going to look past the moral panic today and see for what it really is, a realist's defense manual against manipulation.
Moving right into Section 2, Hip-Hop's Machiavelli. So how did a book about historical power dynamics get so embraced by modern cultural icons? It actually earned Greene the title of Hip-Hop's Machiavelli by The New Yorker. And this brilliantly illustrates how two titans applied these realist principles to survive a seriously cutthroat industry. Despite all the controversy, the hip-hop community, everyone from Busta Rhymes to Jay-Z, started quoting it. Greene didn't consciously plan this, but it makes total sense, right? If you're navigating a tough business, you need a survival guide on leverage and raw power. Look at 50 Cent on the left. Greene actually lived with him for months and saw his incredibly rigid discipline firsthand. 50 doesn't drink or do drugs because he absolutely hates the feeling of not being in control. He is laser-focused on business. Then, on the right, you have Jay-Z. Greene compares Jay-Z to the Mozart of rap, just massive natural talent, fluidity, and brilliant improvisational skill. Both guys use these laws of power to conquer their field, just through the lens of their own unique strengths.
All right, on to Section 3, Essential Laws of Power. Now that we've validated the source through these modern case studies, we're going to distill the 48 laws down to the absolute essentials for you.
Because, let's be honest, reading all 450 pages takes about 15 to 20 hours. So let's hit the top 4. We have never outshine the master, conceal your intentions, always say less than necessary, and guard your reputation. At first glance, yeah, they sound like something out of a political thriller. But honestly, these act as vital survival skills in everyday life. Saying less than necessary keeps you from blurting out something foolish in a high-stakes meeting. Guarding your reputation? That's just good sense. A solid reputation literally does the heavy lifting for you before a battle even starts. These aren't just manipulative tricks. They're core observations of human nature.
So the crucial point is this foundational rule, Law 1, never outshine the master. Breaking this one is probably the most common mistake people make. Think about it. When you try way too hard to impress your boss, you might accidentally trigger their fear or envy. Greene says that if you make your masters appear more brilliant than they actually are, you will attain the heights of power. It is entirely about managing the insecurities and egos of the people who hold the keys to your success.
Which brings us to the thumbscrew hook, blending laws 13 and 33. The whole concept here is to find someone's weakness, their thumbscrew, like a hidden insecurity or an uncontrollable emotion, and appeal directly to their self-interest, never, ever to their mercy. Discovering how someone's thumbscrew works is the ultimate way to protect yourself from dark psychology. And it actually lowers your moral defenses against learning this stuff, because once you know exactly how a manipulator searches for your vulnerabilities, you can finally build up your own walls.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 4, the path to mastery. This is where we transition from just acquiring power to the ultimate evolution, mastering your craft. A concept hugely inspired by Greene's time with 50 Cent.
10,000. You've probably heard of the 10,000-hour rule, right? The idea that putting in this kind of massive time creates true greatness? Well, Greene explains that when you dedicate 10,000 hours, you develop a powerful, almost animal intelligence. It's a pure instinct that completely transcends intellect. You don't even have to think anymore. You just know your field instinctively. This is exactly what allows people who put in the hours to spot trends and opportunities that the rest of us completely miss.
But that raises a very serious question for all of us. What happens when you have the raw talent? You put in the hours, but you just burn out. Greene uses Eminem as prime example here. Eminem clearly had the talent and put in his 10,000 hours, but Greene notes that he eventually lost that raw, driving energy that fueled his early days.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between burnout and longevity. Look at why Eminem struggled with burnout. He became isolated. He really hated the highly social publicity aspect of the business. Plus, once you make millions, you can lose that visceral connection to the streets that originally drove you. On the flip side, look at Jay-Z and 50 Cent. They stepped outside their initial craft and diversified. They realized they had to master the business world, not just the music, applying that same intense discipline. That's how you build enduring power.
And that brings our explainer full circle today. Greene writes, power is essentially amoral, and one of the most important skills to acquire is the ability to see circumstances rather than good or evil. We have to remember, these 48 laws are strictly observations pulled from 3,000 years of human history. They aren't idealistic moral judgments about how the world should work. They are stark realities of how the world actually works. Power itself, it really doesn't care about intentions.
So I leave you with this final provocative thought. Will you use this knowledge to protect yourself or to build your own empire? Now that you have this realist guide to human nature, the choice of how to apply it is completely up to you. You can use it defensively to spot the thumbscrews and smokescreens of others, or you can use it to map out your very own 10,000-hour path to mastery. Thanks so much for hanging out for this explainer, and I seriously can't wait to explore our next topic with you.